Today we're going to look at color schemes. As artists, we often use color to tell a story, to express a feeling, or just because it looks good. And oftentimes there are certain groupings of colors, what we call a color scheme, that just naturally occur when we look at the color wheel. So for this assignment, you are going to want these color scheme handouts. You're going to want a set of color pencils, your color wheel, and your color term sheet. With all our supplies gathered, it's time to start working. So you'll notice on the color schemes worksheet, and this color schemes worksheet is provided by Miss Taylor. I will link her Teachers Pay Teachers website down below. So if you would like to purchase your own color scheme worksheet, you will find it there. We will see some similar terms like analogous, complementary, triadic, and maybe some terms that you either have forgotten about or you're not familiar with them, like monochromatic. And on another page, dyadic, or analogous and complement. We're going to work through these color schemes in preparation for our project. So we're going to start with the simplest, which is monochromatic. Monochromatic, as you can see, there is a definition here with it. It's one color with the tints, tones, and shades of that color. So I'm going to need to select from my color pencil set a color. Just going to start with red. Since I can make tints of that color, then I'm going to want white. And since I can make shades of that color, I'm going to want black. And tones, I already have the necessary materials to make tones. Since tones are the color mixed with gray, I can just mix my white, black, and my color together to create tones. Now when working with color pencil, it's similar to working with graphite in that pressure can be a very important key component when coloring with color pencils. So let me start this and talk about that as we go. While working with this handout, I want to, over here underneath the monochromatic, you'll notice there's a color wheel, and where the arrow is at, I want to identify the colors I am going to use in this section. So I'm using red. I want to fill in these various shapes with either red or tints of red, shades of red, or tones of red. I could possibly use or leave a couple of areas pure white, but I don't want to leave many of them pure white. It's really up to you where you begin in doing this. So let's say I start in this area. To get a good coloring, I want to work with the circular shading technique so that I can really press my color down onto the paper and fill in the space. Even though this is practice, we still want to take this time to practice good techniques when applying material. Now if I want to create a tint of this color, I'm going to do two things. I'm going to lay down some white first. So let's say this area I want to make a tint of red or a pink color. I'm going to first lay down a layer of white, and I'm not pressing very hard. Just like what we talked about in graphite, where eventually you can run out of tooth on the paper by pressing too hard, and then it won't allow other graphite to grab a hold of the paper. The same thing can happen with colored pencil, but only in this case, the binding agents and any wax that could be in the colored pencil could just build up too much that, again, there is no texture left of the paper for other colored pencil to break off and hold. So I've put some white down, and then just like in graphite, since I want a tint or a lighter version of red, I'm going to put less pressure when I apply the red on top of the white. And then to clean that up some, I'm going to go over top of it with white, and now I can press a little bit more strength behind the coloring to smooth out the color. Now I can create various tints of red. It doesn't have to just be this color. You could try in color pencils, even reversing that action. So I could go with a light pressing of my color red directly on the paper first, and then placing the white over top to create a tint. So of course, different pressures I apply while applying the red color can give me various tints of that red. So I can go extremely light by barely pressing any red onto my paper, or I can go extremely dark with my tints as long as it doesn't look like my pure red. Now to make a shade, it's going to be a similar concept, but since black is darker, I definitely want to add it last. So if I wanted to create a shade in these stripes, I'm not going to press very hard with my red. And again, it's because I don't want to fill up all the fibers of the paper with the wax or the binding agents within my color pencils, so that there's something left there for the black to break off onto. And I'm going to come in and I'm going to just lightly press my black over top. And then I'm going to add another layer of red over top of that. So just like anything else, just like the tints, I can create various shades of darker red colors depending on how much black I use with my red. So if I wanted an area to look really, really dark, I may just put a light pressing of red down, maybe a little bit more pressure with my black, and so that it doesn't look like a pure black area, come back over and I'll probably need a little bit more pressure with my red so that it is showing up as a dark red and not just a black area that was colored in with black colored pencil. So for the first one, monochromatic, I'm going to choose a single color. I'm going to pull out my white and my black, and I'm going to create tints, shades, and tones. And to create a tone, it is a mixture of gray and the color. So I can put down some white first. I can add some black to that white. Go back over top with a little bit of white, and again, I'm not pressing too hard because I need to layer some red on top of this yet. And once I have a gray color, I can come in and add some of my red to create that tone. So I want you to vary your values using your tints, your shades, and your tones, as well as just the pure color red from the pencil, and fill in this design using whatever color you chose for your monochromatic color scheme. So I finished my first color scheme, my monochromatic. So as I mentioned, you can leave a couple of areas white, but notice I left very small areas white. I wanted to practice creating colors with my color pencils using white, black, and my color. So I have some tints, I have some tones, and I have some shades on here. So for each one of these color schemes, I'm going to choose a new set of colors or a new color, and similar to this, I'm going to fill in the design with different values. So like in analogous colors, I need 3 colors that are side by side on the color wheel, plus the tints, tones, and shades of those colors. Now since I just used red, I think I'm going to select a different set of analogous colors. And I'm going to go with some cool colors. So I'm going to select green, blue, green, and blue. Now since my pencil set does not have blue-green, I'm going to have to color mix with green and blue to create it. and I'm going to identify that on here. So at one of the arrows, I'm going to record my green color. At the far right arrow, I'm going to identify my blue. Then in the middle, where they would create blue-green, I'm going to create a blue-green color. So there are my three colors: green, blue, green, and blue. So I not only have those three colors to fit in here, but I can use any of the tints, tones, and shades of them. So if I start out with green, and I create a green color inside of this shape, then in another area, I can create a tint of green. Or I can create a shade of green. And I can also create a tone. So since I've created kind of a pattern there of a tint, then a shade, then a tone, I'm going to finish out that section with the same thing: a tint, a shade, and a tone. So I can do the same thing with blue also. So if I choose an area in which to color blue, I can also create tints, shades, and tones of blue also. And of course I need my third color, which is blue-green. And again, I can shade or color any area to create my blue-green color. And I can create tints, shades, and tones of blue-green. So this isn't complete, but hopefully it gives you an idea of how to complete these other parts of the handout with color schemes. So no matter what kind of color scheme it's asking you of, whether it's using a single color or multiple colors, each time you use them, you also want to include the tints, tones, and shades of each of the colors you're using. But I want to try to create variety. So I want to think about not only the colors I'm using, but their placement and the values they're creating. So continue to work through this worksheet: monochromatic, analogous, complementary. As we did on our term sheet, you can skip split complementary, go on to triadic, and then on the other worksheet, fill out your warm colors, your cool colors, and we'll talk about these other ones later.